One more thing. Did Anthony Edwards drop a hint at All-Star that he might want to come to Miami?
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We got one more thing to talk about today, recording this Wednesday morning after Tuesday night's loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. And one thing that we haven't talked about, David, and I'm sure you saw this clip of Anthony Edwards talking to Norm Powell during All-Star Weekend and saying, hey, Miami seems like a vibe. Let's play the clip.
Ain't touching nobody.
Hi, what up, baby?
Yeah, man. Chilling, man. Yes, sir.
Look good, man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I had to get me money.
You got no hospital shoes. Like Julie, man. With them sketches, boy. Come on now. Come on, dog. Like that shit in Miami?
Yeah, man. Love, bro. You already know.
Look like the vibe.
Man, what?
Ant and Norm getting along swimmingly there. David, do you care to overreact to Anthony Edwards saying Miami looks like a vibe?
Absolutely. I love that he says it because, you know, there's a vocal minority that thinks, oh, you know, Miami's too tough. It's not a place for players. Nobody wants to go there and deal with that. But there are just some players to whom it does appeal to. And I love that he recognizes that Norm made an all-star in his first campaign with Miami. Like that's is something about both the player and the organization that they were able to empower him to become the player that he's been this season, and that he looks in good shape. Like that's another thing that he acknowledges. Like, you know what? You're in better shape than you were. Why? Because of Miami's culture, because of what they do, because of the stress that they put, the emphasis that they put on becoming the best version of yourself. It does look like a vibe. And in Anthony Edwards' opinion, a positive one. So do I think it's a big deal? Hell yes. I think he's actually thinking that, you know what, Miami might be a great place to play. Miami's a vibe, not just on the court, but off of it as well. And it sure beats winter in South Florida than it does in Minnesota.
I'm interested that you took it in that direction. That's not at all what I thought about. You're talking about the Miami Heat organization being a vibe. I heard that, and I'm thinking he's just looking at beaches and the weather and Miami's a vibe, dude. A cafecito in the afternoons. Like, this is what this guy is talking about. I'm sure he's aware of the organization and the reputation it has. Heck, he played for Eric Spoelstra at the Olympics. You know,
Not the same thing.
Sure, but he's at least familiar with the guy in charge. And so I when I hear him say that Miami looks like a vibe, I'm thinking he's thinking more so off the court, which, hey, whatever reason you need to come here, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, we're not concerned about your motivation so long as you're motivated to come here. You know, whatever it might be, there's a lot to offer. But I don't know. Like I saw him kind of appreciate, and Norm's comment had to get one, meaning one trip to the All-Star break, right? At least that's how I interpret it. I don't know if you got a different opinion about that. I had to get one.
Had to get one.
I had to get one.
Yeah.
And eventually get my all-star selection, but I'm able to do it as Miami. And then you look good. It's not like he's got a better tan or like, you know, anything. He's got a new fade. It's you look good. You look in shape, man. How is it in Miami? I saw love, you know? Like to me, that's like speaking about the organization. It's not the city. The cities are cities for these guys. You know, you wield enough, the same power that you could wield in Minnesota, you could wield in Miami and Cleveland and, you know, Oklahoma City or wherever else. The cities are the cities. You're going to find what you're ever going to look for because you're an NBA millionaire and you can find whatever you want whenever you want it. So that doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
you can't find weather.
Like the beach.
Anthony, we're going to buy weather.
Absolutely. I get that. But to me, it's all about, you know what, being in an organization where you're happy, where you feel like you're empowered, where you feel like you're part of something bigger than just your individual play. And I think that that's something that a lot of players do feel about the Miami Heat organization, is that there is something there, a vibe, if you will. And so To acknowledge that Norm is thriving in Miami is an acknowledgement that the city and the organization is good for him. And that's where I'm kind of interpreting it.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I've got Anthony Edwards' contract pulled up here.
Ooh.
I'm going to talk about that in a second. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. And if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which teams can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your picks cash in, but can also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I've got Anthony Edwards' contract pulled up. He is set to become a free agent in 2029. So if we were waiting for free agency, it's going to be a minute here. I mean, Bam will be into his 30s into his 30s at that point.
Yeah.
Who knows who, like, Norm might be his best friend all-star. He might not even be in the league at that point, right? Like Norm's going to be 33 going in next season. We have no idea. So I don't think that planning on 2029 is the way to go. And the way I kind of want to do this part of the conversation, David, I don't want to guess about whether or not Anthony Edwards will come here or not. I'm looking at more so how, if it were to happen, how would it happen?
Yeah.
And free agency in 2029, maybe that is how it would happen. That is very depressing to me to think about waiting that long, although whatever, it feels like 2016 was 3 years ago and that was 10 years ago. I don't know. But he'll be extension eligible in the summer of 2027, which is, as we know, the season that the Heat are planning to make big moves if they don't make a big move sooner than that. And then he'll really be extension eligible. Like the Timberwolves will be under the gun for it in the summer of 2028, right? It's because you got those 2 summers where you're extension eligible. So if he doesn't sign an extension in 2027, I don't think Minnesota freaks out. But if he doesn't sign the extension in 2028, that's where I think the Timberwolves really have to think about things. Does Anthony Edwards demand a trade sooner than that? Maybe. But as we've seen in the past, guys under contract for multiple years have very little leverage, a.k.a. Damian Lillard, where he wanted to come to Miami more than anything. And the Trailblazers said, doesn't matter. You have no leverage in this situation. You can't leverage your ability to sign or not sign an extension. You're under contract for 3-4 more years. We're going to send you wherever we damn well please. And Minnesota can certainly do the same thing, and that would be their prerogative. I also don't know that within the next couple of years, Anthony Edwards will demand a trade, right? He's 24 years old. We don't see players at that age demand trades. We usually see players at this age, like the lifespan, like the life cycle of an NBA star is, I'm going to be a one franchise player basically through their age 27, age 28 season. And then maybe they start looking in other directions if it's not working out. But Minnesota's been in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. It's a good roster. It's well run, well coached. Yeah. Something dramatic would have to happen and in a bad way in Minnesota for Anthony Edwards to look around over the next couple of years and be like, I actually got to get out of here. I really don't see that happening. And so when I look at the path to Miami getting Anthony Edwards, it's way down the road.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a first round exit this year, maybe a first round exit next year, or missing the playoffs altogether. Those are the kind of drastic things that you're talking about. Because what is the roster?
Insulting his family? I don't know. Like,
I mean yeah. Well, Goldberg, look with Rudy, that's always a questionable. I mean, he's a player that is polarizing within the context of the locker room, not even just for the fans and media and stuff like that. So there is the potential for that to go south. I'm sure he gets along with Julius. I'm sure he gets along with the other guys on that Wolves roster. This is his team. But I also don't feel like he's early enough in his career where it's not necessarily like he's not tied to the organization the same way other players are, even at that early age. Like, it just feels like he's been building something slowly. And yes, as he's gotten better, the organization's gotten better as well. but I don't see him and the Wolves being synonymous, and I'm not sure why. It's just that's just the interpretation I have. The feeling I get is that you don't look at the Wolves and you go, "This is Anthony Edwards' team," or do you look at Anthony Edwards and say, "Minnesota Timberwolf for life"? He's not a Minnesota lifer or anything like that. It does very much feel, at least in my opinion, like they're kind of working with borrowed time here. So, yeah, because I mean, I don't. It could all go very south very quickly.
I mean, it could, but
I'm
interested in why you say that. Like, what makes you think that the Anthony Edwards in Minnesota thing is borrowed time? Like, I think that I look at the entire situation that they have there, and I'm saying, why can't he be a one franchise guy? They got a good situation.
Look, like we talked about Jalen Brunson in a recent episode.
Yeah,
like he's never leaving New York. Like, there would no be any reason whatsoever for him to leave New York. Even a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, a small market team, whatever you want to call it, like that feels like he's already done something with Indiana where he feels much more closely aligned with the future of that organization than I would say Anthony Edwards. And to me, it's just like Dwayne, by that point in his career, had already won a championship here in Miami. It was clear it was his team. And yes, the free agency of 2020-10 was a big deal and certainly a concern for the front office. But
Halliburton did make the finals last year. Maybe that's part of. To your point, Dwayne, obviously a ton of success early in his Miami. And you look at other young guards, right? You look at a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who obviously has won a championship with OKC. Sure. And by the way, guys like Halliburton and Shai have already been traded, right? Like Shai started with LA and Halliburton was in Sacramento to start his career. So maybe there's more of a motivation to not want to get traded again, right? For those kinds of guys. But with Ant...
Can I say something?
Yeah,
because there's a comparison there that feels very similar. And you know, the connection to Rudy Gobert is an obvious one too. Did Utah ever feel like it was Donovan Mitchell's team? Like, did Donovan Mitchell ever feel like, oh, that was a Utah Jazz for life?
So to your point, it did. Those first couple of playoff runs, right, where he was he averaged like 36 points per game in that one deep run, and then he comes back and like his playoff numbers were literally compared to Michael Jordan. Like that was the only comparison. Those first couple of playoff runs, and then it fizzled. To your point, right? It fizzled in Utah between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and that whole situation. Quinn Snyder gets fired, and this whole thing happens. That would be what it takes. I'm not saying that that's out of the realm of possibility. I'm just saying that that's what it would take for something like Anthony Edwards to leave to have. It would take a massive reset. Now, look, Minnesota is out a bunch of first-round picks after some of the trades that they made recently, right? Gobert is 33 years old. Julius Randle is having a very good season, couple seasons for Minnesota, but I don't know that he's the guy that you're building around necessarily. Naz Reid's awesome, but ditto between him and Julius Randle. Right. They've lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They have cut costs. I know they traded for Ayo Dosunmu. I like that deal for them in February, but if things were going to go poorly, it would be kind of hard for them to pull themselves out of it. And in that way, maybe that Donovan Mitchell comparison is the right one, where it says, oh, wow, we were like kind of at the top of the world. And we were, because the difference between guys like, Minnesota making the Western Conference Finals, as you know, is a big deal. Like, that is a cursed franchise. Even with Kevin Garnett, it was really hard for them to make it that far. Like, going to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row is kind of like winning a championship in Minnesota, based on the history of that organization, right? But, they could be on the top of the world. Next thing you know, things get old and you don't have a way to pull yourself out. And maybe Ant does look in a couple of years and says, yeah, you know what? It's been real.
Maybe I'm not explaining it well, because it feels more like it's something inexplicable in the sense that, like, let's say an older player, Dame Lillard, like he felt like he was a trailblazer, and I never questioned his dedication to the Trailblazer organization, even earlier in his career when he was enjoying success alongside Nick Batum and LaMarcus Aldridge and Robin Lopez and everything else, those teams of the Blazers there, where he was able to carry them to some great runs and he put up great numbers. Steph Curry, also the same thing. Before winning championships in Golden State, that was his team. It just feels like there are players that that I view as, okay, this is a guy who's going to be with that team for a long time. I never saw that with Donovan in Utah, despite the success he was having. And I certainly don't see it with Anthony Edwards either. I just don't see that guy wanting to stay in Minnesota for the rest of his career. And again, I'm not reporting anything or saying anything. This is just more of a feeling and an interpretation than anything else. And I can say the same thing about guys like Halliburton and Brunson, that I think that they'll be much more closely aligned with the futures of the respective franchises A guy like Bam Adebayo. I know there's a lot of buzz about some fans saying, "Oh, Bam's going to request a trade," and it might be a concern down the road. But I also think he loves being in Miami and doesn't want to be anywhere else. That's a guy that is viewed as a cornerstone of the franchise. And while Anthony Edwards might be viewed as a cornerstone of the franchise in Minnesota, I don't know that he views himself that way in the sense of, well, I want to be here building something for the rest of my career.
To your point, we have seen Kyrie Irving kind of did the same thing in Cleveland, right? It was we've seen James Harden being an assassin. Anthony Edwards' hero is Kevin Durant, who is very much always on the market and a superstar without a home. So to your point, maybe Ant doesn't view himself in the same way as some of these other one franchise type players. Maybe that's not a priority for him. And if that's the case, more power to him. It's your career, do whatever you want with it. I will just say this. When he was selected as the All-Star MVP this past All-Star weekend, he said he holds up the Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP trophy, and he says, "It means a lot. I love Minnesota, and I know Minnesota loves me. I said I was gonna put on a show for them, and I gave them a show." I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, kind of what you're supposed to say, and totally fine. Look, listen, this isn't even a conversation about whether or not Anthony Edwards is going to demand a trade. I know the Giannis buzz around the All-Star or before the trade deadline, rather, had Bucks fans feeling a certain way, and whether or not Shams Charania was creating and manifesting this interest from Giannis. That's not the conversation here, because I don't think Anthony is looking to leave Minnesota anytime soon.
Right.
Things do have to, as you say, go south. But there is that potential there. There is always that potential with these players. And I think, one X factor here that we're not talking about, I really do think that Eric Spoelstra has a heck of an opportunity when he coaches as the head coach of Team USA basketball. If he puts the ball in Ant's hands and prioritizes him and getting him to shine on a global stage, building his empire, so to speak, just kind of creating this a greater global image of who he is as a player, I think that would be a tremendous thing. I think maybe
the right way to phrase this, to your point, is if Anthony Edwards were to leave, who would be at the top of maybe his list of preferred destinations? And I have no reason to think it wouldn't be Miami. I'm, again, not reporting anything, but like Miami, it feels like would be near the top because of his relationship with Spo, because he believes that Miami is a vibe for one reason or the other. I don't believe any of this Atlanta stuff. Ever since LeBron James went to Cleveland, now we just assume every star player wants to go back home, where the reality is that was never a thing before LeBron nor after LeBron. Star players don't care about going back to their hometown. Only LeBron did. And so I don't think that that's a factor for Anthony Edwards. I think, you look to further your business empire, to your point there. That'll do it for us here on One More Thing and Locked On Heat today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you subscribe. Follow Locked On Heat so you get all of the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Join the Cookie Gang. Get Locked On Heat ad-free. Plus, members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnHeat.supercast.com to check it out.